Well, hey everyone, it's our last day. We've completed, and man, what a trip. And this last day was really special. So I can't wait to show you some of the things we did. We left the area of the Galilee and we went back down to the Jezreel Valley. And so here's where the Jezreel Valley is, and so much rich Bible history in this relatively small Jezreel Valley area. So we started out in the city of Jezreel. This is the city where Queen Jezebel came to a violent death in this area. Here's a picture of our guide, Jack Beck, and myself. We're looking out over the Jezreel Valley. And from this area, we went just a short distance from Jezreel to the spring of Harod. And so this is the area where Gideon, uh, God gave Gideon the victory over the Midianites. And so you might remember from this story, Gideon and all the people who were with him rose up early and camped beside the well of Harod, so that the army of the Midianites were on the north side by the hill of Moreh in the valley. And so this is looking out from the spring of Harod, and this is Mount Moreh. So the Midianites are on the other side here. And so Gideon is facing a massive battle. And so this is where Gideon wants to make sure that God's with him. So he asks God, I'm going to put out a fleece. And in the morning, I would like for the fleece to be full of dew and all of the ground around it to be dry. And God does it. And then the next day, he says, okay, I want to put out the fleece. And this time, I want all the ground around it to be wet, but the fleece to be dry. And God does it. So a little bit of background on that. The Israelites during this time really struggled with the worship of Baal and allowing that to enter into their practice. Baal was the god or the deity that was believed to have control over rain and over dew. So it was no accident that what Gideon was asking God to do and demonstrating he was with them was showing that God is the God over the dew, not Baal. Well, God wanted to further demonstrate that this victory was not Baal's victory, any deity, or the people's victory. This victory was God. And so he brought them to the spring of Harod and he had them drink. And this is the spring here. And some of the men lapped up the water, like, kind of got and put their face in the water and lapped it up. And some of them cupped it in their hands and drank of it. And so God used this based on how they drank the water, to pare down the army to just 300 men. And so at the nighttime, 300 men with Gideon went to the top of Mount Moreh. They had their torches and they had them probably covered up with ceramics. When they got at the top, they took the ceramics off, they broke them, and they yelled, one for the Lord and one for Gideon, and they charged, and God sent the Midianites into confusion, and they started turning on each other, and God gave them a great victory at this spot. So it's cool to see it firsthand. So after this, we went to a nearby city of Bethshan. Bethshan is only mentioned in the Bible as the place where, when the Philistines uh, came across Saul's body, of course, Saul had killed himself. They cut off Saul's head and his sons, and they put them on stakes at Bethshan. And so this city was a massive city, and it's an example of what's called a Decapolis city. And so what's significant about this is about a 4th or 5th century, but the early Christians were dealing with this. And what they were dealing with is these cities coming up that were incredibly luxurious. Markets and marble and theaters, it was the absolute good life. And all you had to do to be a part of this city and partake of all that's modern and new and fresh was to worship their pagan gods. And so the Christians were really having to deal with this in the early 1st century, 2nd and 3rd century, in that to remain a Christian meant to not partake in this good life of these pagan cities. Let me show you a picture here. This is one of the luxuries, if you will, of this city. This is a public bathroom. So not a lot of privacy here. You might be wondering how exactly this works. Well, let me show you. This is how it works. So you would pick two stones that I guess based on the size of your posterior, you could fit between. So some of the stones are placed further apart than others. And this is where they would take care of business. So from Bethshan, we made our way south to the Jordan River. And so much happens in this little spot in the Jordan River of great significance. And so I just want to bring through some of the important biblical geographic events that happened right in this area of the Jordan. So the first is that um, the Israelites entered the promised land through this area of the Jordan. And so a major miracle happened here. Now the Lord this is Joshua 3:15. Now the Jordan is at a flood stage all during harvest. And so what's really significant about that is how big this river is when it's flooded, especially back at the time of Joshua. It's estimated that the Jordan River would have been a mile wide and 10 feet deep with significant undercurrents and turbulent water. And so I'd never thought of this, but consider this. You have these Israelites that have been wandering in the desert all of their lives for 40 years. They don't know how to swim. So crossing a body of water, regardless, is deadly. There's no way across this. And so God performs this miracle where he has the priests who carried the Ark of the Covenant reach the Jordan, their feet touch the water, and the water from upstream stopped flowing and piled up in a heap a great distance away. So part of what God's doing is he's doing a very similar miracle with parting the Red Sea with Moses to parting the Jordan with Joshua. Part of what he's doing is blessing Joshua's leadership in the eyes of the people. There's a transition of leadership from Moses to Joshua that happens in these similar miracles, and that happens right in this general area of the Jordan River, beyond the Bethany, beyond the Jordan, which is roughly what we're looking at here. So another major transition in leadership happens at this spot that had slipped my mind that this happened at this area, but you might remember that Elijah and Elisha, at the end of Elijah's earthly ministry, they head towards Jericho and then cross the Jordan. And so they get to the Jordan, and Elijah took his cloak, rolled it up, and struck the water with it. And the water divided to the right and to the left, and the two of them crossed on dry ground. Very much like the same miracle that happened with Joshua. And so as they were walking along and talking together, suddenly a chariot of fire and horses of fire appeared and separated the two of them, and Elijah went up into heaven in a whirlwind. And so after he's taken up, Elisha takes Elijah's cloak, comes back, does the same miracle, divides the Jordan, walks across on dry land. Verse 15, the company of the prophets from Jericho who were watching said, "Oh, the spirit of Elijah is resting on Elisha." So again, you have that transition of leadership from Elijah to Elisha, all demonstrated in this body of water. And then another transition of leadership was that Malachi tells us that the spirit of Elijah would come. Well, let me just read it. Malachi 4:5 says, "See, I will send the prophet Elijah to you before that great and dreadful day of the Lord comes. He will turn the hearts of the parents to their children and the hearts of the children to their parents, or else I will come and strike the land with total destruction." And so John the Baptist did his baptizing in this area of water here. And it was a transition from the Elijah of the Old Testament to John the Baptist in this baptism of repentance. And of course, it was at this place that John the Baptist baptizes Jesus, with John the Baptist saying, "I must decrease, he must increase." There is a further transition of leadership from John the Baptist's baptism to Jesus's ministry. So just so much happens in this geographical area of water that's easy to miss when we're reading the Bible through, from Old Testament to New Testament and different books of the Bible. But the Old Testament reader would have pictured this same area the way that we're looking at it now and made those connections. And so as we were there were people being baptized in this area. We had 2 people from our group get baptized, which is really special. here's a picture of Stan and I standing in the Jordan River together. And so, all in all, it's just been an absolutely incredible trip. I can't believe that it's come to an end, but I got to tell you, I'll never read the Bible the same way again because it just makes it come to life as you've seen these places and walked and understand how it all ties together. So glad I was able to share it with you.